Imagine doing everything right and still being diagnosed as pre-diabetic.
I become pre-diabetic. I started having symptoms, crushing fatigue. Cannot stay awake at my desk. Just the fatigue was in my brain, it was in my bones.
That's what happened to our guest today, Erin Power. Erin is a health coach and the lead instructor at the Prima Health Coach Institute. On this episode, find out how she dealt with being diagnosed as pre-diabetic.
I thought to myself, how does somebody like me get sick and fat? How did I screw this up? Wait a second, how am I supposed to be eating?
And how she cured her symptoms. We talk about her health journey, what we like and dislike about the fitness industry.
It's going to throw the whole diet and fitness and vain culture under the bus.
And what to do if you run into a bear. Well, metaphorically speaking. Enjoy this episode with my mentor, Erin Power. And remember, make good choices. I kind of wanted to start out with a lesson that you taught me that I use almost every time before I go on stage, every time before I start a podcast or before I start a Zoom call with a client, and that is the breathing technique. So if you wouldn't mind going over why you utilize the breathing technique, what are the benefits for it, especially if we're about to be in a high stressful situation, like going on stage or talking to a new client or something like that. And then if you wouldn't mind actually walking us through one, and we'll go from there.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's a great question. Great place to start, actually. I call it a triangular breath. And it involves a certain length of an inhale, a certain length of hold, and a certain length of exhale. So it's a little bit of an adaptation on box breathing, which is relatively well known. And I'll describe it in a second. But why it's important, this is how I articulate it even to my clients. When we are stressed or under pressure or nervous or in a state of chaos, we breathe differently. We have to. It's part of our stress response. It's part of this whole apparatus that gets us moving away from the stressor. So this metaphorical bear that's chasing us. If we're being chased by a metaphorical bear, we have to get away from the bear. There's a whole stress cascade that happens to get us away from the bear. And our respirations are one of it. We have to get a certain amount of oxygen into the blood to get us away from the bear. So there's a sort of a high pressure, stressful type of breathing that a lot of us tend to do, which is just kind of this shallow little puff of breath that's kind of trying to get us oxygenated and out of there. And when we're kind of breathing rapidly like this, it sends a signal to our body that there's this metaphorical bear. It's the sympathetic nervous system state, which is the fight or flight state, which is great. It's a totally cool, great nervous system state when you need it, but we shouldn't be living our lives in that state. I'm really, as I go through life, I'm becoming more staunchly opposed to just living life in a chronically stressed out state, obviously. But anyway, so the flip side to that is if you were in a very peaceful, relaxed state, the metaphorical bear is gone, you're relaxing under a metaphorical tree, you would be breathing very differently. It would be a much slower breath. Specifically, your exhales would probably be slower. So what's been shown in some of this research around nervous system state, vagus nerve tone, is that long exhales send a signal to our body that it's safe. If you were being chased by a bear, you wouldn't take the time to relax and sigh. You'd be out of there, right? So this long exhale is really the trigger. So the triangular breath involves an inhale for a certain number of counts, let's call it 5, a tiny little hold at the top for, let's call it 3 counts, and then an exhale for 8 counts. It's like what kind of triangle is that? Is that an isosceles? I don't know. Let's not worry about it. So we would do this together by just kind of relaxing and starting with a really intentional exhale, and then a full inhale through the nose for a count of 5. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A gentle hold at the top for 3, 2, 1, and then an exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, that was just a quick example, but that long exhale for a lot of people feels hard. It's like, I can't exhale for that long. Well, that takes practice. So maybe you would shorten the counts a little bit. Maybe you would count faster. But the idea is the exhale is noticeably longer than the inhale. Something about that exhale to inhale ratio tells our body it's safe. When our bodies feel safe, everything changes. I truly believe that we are our healthiest when our bodies feel safe. This is my new crusade. So why don't we try that together? Okay. I'm not going to count, but I'll breathe really noisily into my microphone. Okay.
Quick warning
so
for those
know where we're at.
Those listening: if you're driving a vehicle or operating a machinery, don't do that now. Wait till you get home.
Right. And a quick plug for anybody who's really into ASMR. This might be right up your alley. I don't know. I've never done it before. Here we go. Okay. So we're going to let our breath out completely, and then we're going to breathe through the nose. So we're going to go in for 5 counts. feel like you could do that 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. I don't think we have to belabor this. I honestly think after the first, second, or third one, it starts to work. What I like about it is it's not a big deal. We don't have to drop into some yogi position, half lotus on the floor, and like we're not Wim Hofing here. We're simply breathing. I'll tell you an anecdote, Eddie, and I'm not going to share a ton of information about it, but I went through a very, very high pressure, very, very stressful period this past weekend where I was feeling a ton of anxiety and panic, which isn't really normal for me. I'm pretty zen pool about stuff like that, but I reached kind of this sort of like panic level of anxiety. And I just went out for a walk, and I emphasized my exhales on the walk. And I can't even tell you how it brought me right down into clarity, which when you're in a moment of anxiety and panic is really what you need. Not like there, calm down. It's like I need to come into just some safe clarity so I can fully understand the big picture of what I'm struggling with right now and maybe get my arms around some solutions. It actually changes your mental state and brings you to a point where you can actually function. Because when you're in that panic state, when you're in that being chased by a bear state, like executive function is not online. You are running. We just can't be running.
I actually recently saw a good illustration of anxiety. So it kind of showed a face with 2 triangles going out this way for vision, right? Our normal vision. And then the vision of anxiety was pointing inwards. So a lot of the time, like they represented to me the things that we have going on in our heads, that panic mode, that bear that you're mentioning. Mm-hmm. And so the breathing technique to me helps just get that vision back out to the outside world, let you feel present where you're at and back to reality.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, the state of anxiety is very much one of self-preservation. Like, I got to get away from this bear. That's job 1. And it's that's a really interesting visual. I like that.
Yeah, it's helped me out on stage too, like doing the breathing technique before I go up, because especially when you first start out, there's panicky moments if things aren't going just the way you planned them to go. And so the more present you are in the moment with where you're at in the room with the people, the more you can be connected to your thoughts and you can control it. And those factors cross over to many other areas of life. You've taught me so many things over the course of the years, but that's one of my favorite things that I utilize all the time. So thank you for leading us through that.
Good. My pleasure.
So I know a little bit of your background. And kind of how you've gotten into the health coaching world. You also have been a fitness instructor, and like most of us, your own personal story and journey that led you into this field and into the health and fitness world. So if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of that backstory.
I will. These backstories can get a little long because I host a podcast too, and people always apologize in advance for how, I'm going to try to keep this brief, but like even just the way you set that up is interesting, because one thing you said was like, how did you get into like health and fitness? Which is actually kind of a story I don't tell very often, but since you kind of asked, the origin to all of this, which I'll get into the whole big picture, but the origin of it was cultural pressure to look a certain way. Just going to throw the whole diet and fitness and sort of vain culture under the bus. I got into fitness because I felt like I had to, micromanage my body in every way to meet a cultural beauty ideal. I said it. My journey into fitness is not like any kind of altruism, like it's my happy place, it's my mental health, for longevity, nothing. It was, I needed to look a certain way. So I'd come out of high school as an athlete, your high school athletic career kind of washes up. I got injured, so I couldn't do my sport anymore in university. So I went to the gym. I started going to gyms when I was 18 years old and immediately found a place to live out my exercise obsession. This is a dark story. I'm sorry, but let's call it spade a spade.
The devil's in the details.
Exactly. I found a place to live out the exercise obsession that, unbeknownst to me, was percolating as I was crushing my high school athletic career. So I immediately got certified because I wanted to do more. I thought if I taught fitness classes, then I could exercise more. I'd have an excuse to be here all day, every day, because I'm now teaching classes here. I gravitated toward group fitness because you're doing the workouts. You are doing, like, personal trainers are kind of counting reps. Group fitness instructors are doing the workout, and that's where I want to be, because I just gotta be exercising all the time. So a long history of exercise obsession that I'm really only coming to grips with now, like 27 years later. And when I say I'm coming to grips with it, what I mean is I'm like owning it. I'm admitting it. I admit every time I go to the gym now, it's like, am I doing this because I want to, or am I doing this because I feel like I need to? And I wrestle with that every day, like any addict. wrestles with anything. That's the origin. Now, concurrent to that, I also went to school and got like a proper degree, and I got a proper job, and I was working in marketing and whatever, just kind of office type jobs, marketing communications. I was a bit of a writer. I had a full-time career, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and I was doing this fitness stuff part-time. By part-time, I mean dozens of hours a week of exercise like crazy.
Which, bringing up the fitness thing, just to backtrack to that right quick, I think that is the surface level of most people's view of health and fitness and being healthy, is that vanity level of the bro science world of diet, which I'm sure we'll get into this, but especially being within the health coaching world, you have to overcome that battle. And it's good to know that, like, even I myself, you have gone through that, because that is very much just that's the door that opens up into being healthy and what people have a perspective on.
Yeah. It is. It's hard to admit, though. And so anybody who might be listening to this and like kind of feeling uncomfortable, like, hey, this lady's talking about being obsessed with exercise. No, but I really like it. It's just my happy place. And if you're kind of grappling with like, or do I like it, or do I feel like I need to, it's very normal to be uncomfortable with grappling with this. And I still do, just to put that out there. But this is a whole diet fitness culture thing. I'm really grumpy these days about diet and fitness culture. So I'm sure that will come up. And I'm still in the fitness industry. And obviously I'm still in the health industry. I'm still in the fitness industry. And I also am grumpy about it. So a big part of my crusade currently is like, let's understand the origins of our beliefs around fitness and health, because they might not be as pure as we think they are.
Yes.
I have been a health junkie at this point for my whole life. I've been in disordered eating exercise behaviors since I was 13, 14 years old, right? So I'm not sedentary. I'm not eating junk food. Are you kidding me? You think I would set foot in McDonald's? Are you kidding me? I am a fitness chick. So I'm eating healthy, eating 7 meals a day, chicken breasts and rice, and exercising all the time, and rice cakes, and somehow I become pre-diabetic. I'm really abbreviating the story, but I started having symptoms that would include things like crushing fatigue in my bones. That was the biggest one. Like, I'm 31 years old, and I cannot stay awake at my desk. I'm trying to write because I'm a writer, and I couldn't come up with like, I had no clarity of mind. Just the fatigue was in my brain. It was in my bones. I would fall asleep in meetings. I would fall asleep driving to the gym after work, just tired. Also gaining abdominal weight, which, hello, that's frustrating as heck. Like, I'm exercising and dieting. That's my whole thing. That's what I do.
I'm on point. Like, I showed up every day.
I'm sorry. I'm doing everything right. Like, I'm not the kind of person that's supposed to get fat, and lots of other things too. Pain, bad knees, whatever. I decided to go to the doctor because that obviously, symptoms, you go to the doctor. I'd never really gone to the doctor because I was so healthy that I didn't need to. So I found this doctor, went to the doctor. She doesn't really know me, but to her credit, and I'm never going to come down on doctors. That's not my thing. Just so we're clear, I'm never going to do that. But this doctor, to her credit, who didn't know me and only had like 5 minutes to hang out with me, she said, your symptoms sound a little bit like pre-diabetes. And just by looking at you, kind of getting a pre-diabetic vibe, I'm going to send you for some blood work. Sent me for some blood work, came back, sure enough, my fasting blood glucose, my HbA1c is in the pre-diabetic range. I don't know what that means. It doesn't make any sense. I've never considered diabetes because I'm a health nut. I know that it's a disease that fat, lazy people get. This is in my mind what I'm thinking, right? My aunt has that, like, whatever, right? So I said to my doctor, what's that? Like, how would that happen? And she said, oh, it could be diet related. It could be like exercise related. I'm like, no. She said it could be related to stress. There's lots of things that can make this happen. And I was like, wait a sec, what? Stress? Like, I'd never, in my whole obsession with fitness, nobody had ever suggested that there's lifestyle factors. Like, it's just that you eat right and you exercise. You eat less, you move more. You earn it, you burn it. Like, that's all we knew. And she's like, maybe it's stress. And sure enough, I had this very stressful job at the time. I really hated it. I quit it. I quit my job. This is like not good life advice, but I quit that job because I was like, F this. If that's maybe one of the factors, well, I don't know, let's run this experiment. So I quit the job. I'm not going to lie, I got better almost immediately.
Wow.
So there's something to that. But also, I started diving into understanding diabetes. Like, what even is that? Because pre-diabetes is basically, you're not diabetic, but you're almost there, champ. Keep up the good work. Yeah. So I wanted to understand like how somebody like me could be on the threshold of diabetes. It didn't make any sense. So I seek to understand diabetes, and I understood that there was a hormone called insulin that had something to do with this, but I didn't really know what it was. So I marched from the doctor's office to the bookstore. And at the bookstore, this by the way, this story predates smartphones. So I went to the bookstore, and the bookstore has these kiosks where you can search for books in the store. And I typed in the word insulin diabetes. I typed into the bookstore search function, and some books came up. And one of them was like a Rob Wolf book, The Paleo Solution. There's a couple of other books that came up, and I bought them all. And I did not know that these were ancestral health books, or paleo didn't mean anything to me. But I had thought to myself, like, how does somebody like me get sick and fat? I literally did everything right. And as I was marching to the bookstore, I thought to myself, like, how did I screw this up? Wait a second, how am I supposed to be eating? Wait, I actually said out loud, how did cavemen eat? I actually said that out loud. I'm so embarrassed. And then when I went to the bookstore and punched in insulin and diabetes, and these paleo books came up, that started me down the ancestral health path, which is kind of how you and I know each other, Eddie, is through some of this ancestral health stuff. I took on some of these ancestral health principles. It worked immediately. My energy came back. That was the first thing. Like, I woke up one day and I was like, here we go. I didn't even know I could have that much energy. I had been becoming pre-diabetic through my diet and lifestyle inputs for years. So I finally got my energy back. That was the best thing. That was the best. I felt like I was checked back into life. I felt like a woman in her early 30s. My mental clarity came online, like next level. I was able to level up in my career. So I'd left that job that I hated, and I leveled up and leveled up and leveled up because I had the mental clarity to do it. And then the body fat started going away, which was a cool side effect. And that's what got me into ancestral health. That's what eventually led me to Primal Health Coach Institute to certify and eventually become part of the faculty, because I was kind of one of the first folks through that school to certify to become an ancestral health coach. Because as you know, when you go through these health journeys, you become really evangelical about it. You want to help everybody. Now I'm on faculty with them because they were searching for somebody who could help kind of grow the curriculum. And I had some, marketing communications background, some business development background. So I seemed like a good fit. And today I'm the coaching and curriculum director for the school.
You touched on a couple of things that I wanted to kind of backtrack to. One was, I know you said you didn't want to come down on doctors, but I don't mind it. Because the thing is, like, we all, as we should follow expert advice always, but we also have to have the understanding that doctors are also specialists, and sometimes they specialize in their certain area, and they're human, and they have their area of focusing, and it's hard to focus on nutrition and some other things sometimes that might help out. A good case of example is somebody in my family. I'm gonna do that. Let me edit that out. Somebody in my family recently had heart surgery, and post-surgery, the meal that they were brought was macaroni and cheese and just some really carb-heavy Jell-O, sugary items. And she asked the doctor, because the doctor was still in the room when she got her meal, and she asked, "Hey, this doesn't really seem very heart healthy." And his response was, "Oh, you'll be fine." And so and so, and you're talking about being, you brought up being evangelistical. When you're very passionate about health and fitness, you tend to, get stirred up about things. You have to learn to just like not let that overtake you and just kind of listen. It's hard not to get upset about those things, and it's hard not to let that overtake you. And but it's also those examples are great for the understanding for others out there to know that always go to your doctor first, but seek other advice from people who have the time to look into these things, and their passion is finding the other way around things. And I also found it was very intriguing that you had that insight to think about, how do cavemen eat, before even getting into the paleo world. So how did, and going down the ancestral route, and I'm sure it changed and evolved over the years, but how did that initial way of eating, that initial finding, help you on your path of helping you control your insulin and getting rid of that brain fog?
The thing was that it made sense, right? So I was able to see immediately when I started researching the ancestral health model that it was just difficult to argue with, versus like here in Canada, we have the food guide, which is our version of the food pyramid. Same thing, food groups. And those are arbitrary. It's like, well, we put them into, like, food doesn't exist in groups. We put it into groups, and a government agency told us to eat numbers of servings from each group. And what do they know? And look around, it's not working. Like, it's clearly not working. And so I just think you don't have to be any kind of genius problem solver to notice, like, here's what I'm seeing. We've been doing this and this happened. it's clearly not working. Let's try something else. And so one of the ancestral health models that really resonated with me first off, before anything else, was circadian biology. Like the fact that we are on a 24-hour clock like all of nature is. And our body has certain expectations for certain inputs at certain times of day, depending on where the sun is in the sky, which I know sounds super kooky, maybe not to you, but I talk about this with my clients. Like, hey, did you ever stop to consider that your body has certain expectations based on where the sun is in the sky? And they're like, what? But to me, it's like, gosh, that makes so much sense. Like time is a construct, like lunchtime is a construct. And all the other constructs, like from the fitness industry, which I'm part of, and I'm allowed to throw the fitness industry under the bus because I'm qualified to do so, but like eat every 2 to 3 hours. That doesn't make any freaking sense. We never had regular access to food as we were evolving. Now, anybody who doesn't believe in evolution, that your disbelief kind of starts here, but I do believe in evolution. And so it's like, yeah, when we evolved, we did not have ready access to chicken breasts and brown rice every 2 hours. Like, why did we say that? Well, we said we had to do that to keep our blood sugar level. And it's like, well, is that true? Like, is that what we really want? Does that actually work in that way? Like, what even is blood sugar? Like, all these personal trainers, and myself included, are saying, eat every 2 to 3 hours to keep your blood sugar level. And we don't even know what the hell blood sugar is. Like, what even is blood sugar? That's what people should say. When your doctor says this is a heart healthy meal, you should say, tell me why this is heart healthy. When your personal trainer says this will help balance your blood sugar, say, tell me how. And if they can't tell you how, if the doctor says, don't worry, you'll be fine. Keep asking. If your personal trainer says, because that's just how it works, everybody knows that you have to eat every keep asking, because that's not an answer. That is not an answer. And I wanted answers. Like, my doctor gave me an answer-ish. She said, could be food, could be movement, could be stress, could be sleep. She gave me a few little rabbit holes to go down, at least. She didn't say, meh, it just happens. Like, she actually gave me something to research. But I feel like there's a lot of sweeping under the rug that happens with nutrition philosophy and health philosophy, which is just like, hey, this is just how it is. This is just what we know. Red meat just causes colon cancer. It just does. Just take my word for it. Like, all this stuff. And I can't abide that. People should be treated like intelligent beings that deserve to understand mechanism of action, whether they want to or not. I think somebody in an expert position should be able to speak to it. So sorry, that was a little soapbox moment.
Oh, no.
But
yeah, that's what we're all about here at the Good Choice Experiment. To me, life is an experiment with making good choices and finding what the good choices are for you. And that's what your doctor kind of set up for you in that moment of like, it could be this, it could be that. Here's some good ideas. Go play with it, go research and find out what is right for you. And a lot of times I think we do get very dogmatic about things, especially in the fitness industry. This is the way you do it. Like I said, 2 to 3 hours. You have to lift heavy. If you have to do this on this time, have to be up, and people get very dogmatic, very hard-headed about things. But the reality of the world, if we, step away for a second and look around the way the world actually works for us on a day-to-day basis, is we're in constant change no matter what. So the variables of that experiment change on day to day. The variables being whether, like you said, how high the sun comes up, what time the sun goes down. What do you have going on, your stress levels that day, what time you're going to sleep, who's coming over, what family's coming over that day, what do you have available in the fridge. All those factors change. And so it's very hard to be dogmatic and be stern. And I think there is some value to discipline. And, like you were at the beginning, I work out every day. That is a good, mindset to have, but it could, in some moments, can be a good choice. In other moments, lean, and be a detrimental, right? So it's learning, I believe, to kind of steer that to the right choices during the right day,
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of what you mentioned is some of my favorite parts about health coaching. And this because I trained you in our advanced coaching course, which I'm teaching right now. And just last night in our session, I shared that I would love it if everybody graduated this course being a completely non-dogmatic coach. Like, I know we have our beliefs about ancestral health and we really buy into them. The people in front of us may or may not, but all the nuance that you just shared, what's in your fridge, what's your schedule, what are your barriers, like what's troubling you, what do you have going on, what season is it, like where is the sun, where do you live, like there's so many variables that influence people's health. And if we go in and say, here, these are the rules, follow these rules and it should work, but we don't factor in the individual variables, including things like preferences, likes and dislikes. I don't want to do it. Like, there's so many different variables that the individual is going to present with. And health coaches, to me, are like the ultimate detectives. We don't go in with we don't go in with, we don't go in to teach or be the boss. We're not the boss of the relationship. We really are kind of this co-leading and just sort of collaborating and co-creating. But fully the client is actually in the expert role because they have to execute. And if we tell them to do something that they just simply can't or don't want to do, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work if they don't want to do it, or they don't have the resources, or they don't have the understanding or whatever. So it's so interesting because when I first got started, I was telling people what to do. Telling. This is the ancestral health model. You should do this. And I don't do that anymore. I literally don't. Like, I'm going to blow a lot of ancestral health people's minds. I don't really take grains away anymore. Like, it's like, I'll tell them what, eventually down the line when they're ready to receive that information, like, hey, you might want to try a little quasi-elimination diet to kind of get to the heart of some of your inflammatory symptoms, if that seems to be this client's particular issue. But I don't do it right out the gate anymore because I want to understand where they are and what their immediate barriers are in terms of taking care of themselves. Like, oh, you're not eating breakfast because you're too busy? What are you too busy doing? What's more important than feeding yourself? Like, with no judgment,
steps.
just curious.
Yeah. It's all baby steps. I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but part of my health journey was at one point in time I weighed over 316 pounds. I was doing stand-up. My dad had a heart attack, and then the comedy club shut down. And so my focus went to like, okay, only thing I got is for the future ahead of me is going to be, having kids. I want to be around. I want to be a good dad. So I started learning about fitness, that way. And, so it was all baby steps, walking one day, walking a little bit further. Yeah. Right. And I learned that same lessons, bringing it back to like similarities in other areas of life through stand-up of like, do one bit, do one joke, see if it works. If it doesn't, make a switch. Same thing. Those factors go into your diet, and those factors go into any decision you make throughout life of try it out, see if it works, experiment with it. If not, go back to it.
I was thinking, because you used the word discipline earlier, which is a word I get a bit grumpy about, to be honest with you, and I'll explain why. It's one of my many grumpy crusades just at this point in my life because my discipline was my great undoing. I was too disciplined. I overdid it. And I'm actually fatigued out of discipline personally. It's like, I don't really want to be disciplined. I want to live a really cozy, cushy life, to be honest with you. But there is nuance in the definition of discipline too, right? So your stand-up example is a great example, or, your example of breaking into the fitness industry one workout at a time. I've shared this with my clients before. So I've gone for a walk every single day since the first lockdown. So 2 years ago, basically to the day we're recording this, I was sitting at home, as we all were. Now I've had a work from home job for a long time, so that wasn't new for me, but my gym was closed, and that was really new for me because, hello, I'm a recovering fitness addict. And I decided, well, it's a pretty nice day. You know what? I'm going to go for a walk. I'm just going to go for a walk. I just went for one walk. I did not declare, I'm going to start a walking habit. I'm going to walk every day, twice a day. I'm going to walk for 90 minutes a day. I'm going to do an uphill walk in a river. I didn't make any declarations about my walking habit. I did one walk. I went out and did one walk. It was nice. The next day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for a walk. I went for one walk. I went for one walk every day for 2 years. And I look back and say, oh, I have a walking habit. Cool. Oh, neat. But I didn't set out to create a habit. So I didn't make any bold declarations about this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to set a goal. I know this sounds crazy because goal setting is really important. Obviously, we know that. But I think that small goals trump huge goals. This is process versus outcome goals. We talk about this right in the course. Outcome goals would be, I'm going to achieve XYZ massive fitness or health goal in 5 years. Great, that's good to have. It's good to have a line of sight on that big goal. But in the day-to-day, we have to focus on the process goal. And that's the one walk. That's the one joke. The one little thing. Like the one thing might be, I'm just not going to buy a new bag of Oreos. When this bag of Oreos is done, I'm just not going to buy another bag. Like literally, that's a process goal. I'm here for it. I've had my clients go away and intentionally eat tacos. Like, okay, your homework for this week is to eat tacos because you're obsessing about tacos. We just need to get that obsession off the plate. That's a process goal. Sounds crazy, but it's a really necessary goal. We have to check off the list before we get to the next thing. I love that about health coaching. Love it.
Yes. And, in all of that, like you said, you have a strong passion against the word discipline. And from that is my pet peeve, which is the labeling of words, of diets, and the perception of what comes with the heavy weight that comes with that thing. So, if you hear the word keto, or if you hear ancestral, or if you hear paleo, or vegan even, there's something that comes with that. And I think the biggest lesson is to look into it first and go ask the question. Like you said, ask the question, go a little bit further into it and see what's actually going on there before you prejudge what the label is. Yeah, that's great.
There's in our advanced coaching course, the one that you took, Eddie, you had to do an exercise where you submitted a coaching conversation for grading. I'm sure you remember that. And I graded it.
Yep.
I remember. And I graded on this big grading rubric. And one of the line items on the rubric is coaches' biases are imperceptible. That's what we need to do as coaches. And honestly, I just think that's a really nice human skill. When somebody presents you any interaction with an idea that's different than yours, try to just sit with it and seek to understand it rather than coming back with your argument. I really think that's a skill to master just for a human, honestly.
I'm going to preach about the level 2 all day long, because the other skill you get in there is learning how to listen and reciprocate. I know I have a lot of people in my life that are coaches or life coaches, or they're getting into the coaching world, and they're coming at it from that dogmatic, you got to do this. I don't understand why people don't do this thing. I don't understand why they don't. And it's, ask them. Walk them through it, And they don't have to do what you want them to do. They have to do what's right for them in the moment. So guide them. Don't tell them, guide them through it. So that was one of the biggest lessons
That's an awesome lesson. I have an anecdote to just quickly share about that. There was one time I was teaching that advanced coaching course, the level 2 course. And on the very first day of the course, because I've taught it a few times now, so a bunch of people have gone through it, but on the very first day, this guy gets on and he says, I don't understand why people don't just stop eating grains, or I don't really understand why people don't understand that their health is in their hands. What's up with that? And this is on day 1 of a coaching course. We don't even talk about health in this course. It's literally just about coaching. And I thought it was so interesting. It's just you wait, my friend. Everything you're feeling right now is totally valid. And we're going to learn how to understand that. If you don't understand, we're going to learn how to understand. We're going to seek to understand. It's our job to fully understand. It's a paradigm shift, though, because, and when we say that coaches can gravitate toward the evangelical side, that's fine. That makes sense. But it doesn't really work when you're going to try to help people. It's not a helpful place to come from. I think it's fine to feel the evangelism inside of you and have that be your driving force, but it doesn't work when you're trying to put it on people. People don't like that. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No. Everybody loves to be helped. Nobody wants to be told what to do and pushed into things. It's just that give and take. Help me, push me along, but don't push me along. You told us where you started out with your perception of fitness world. Where do you stand today with your perception of it, and what is the main thing you teach your clients within your business?
So just to kind of close the loop on the fitness piece, I don't actually have a fitness component in my health coaching program. And the reason for that is because I think it muddies the waters, because I do focus on metabolism and metabolic flexibility, which we'll talk about. Folks who come to me are like, oh, Erin's the metabolism girl. I have a broken metabolism or a slow metabolism. People think they have these metabolic problems. They maybe don't even really know what their metabolism is. And I love to just explain to people and help them understand what their metabolism even is, which is simply the system of the body that decides how fuel is used. So I think people generally know that but they think of it in terms of, I have a fast metabolism or I have a slow metabolism. So this is some sort of unfortunate circumstance of their bad luck. I was born with a slow one. He was born with a fast one. I just don't really agree with that language. But then also within the fitness industry, we conflated the talk of metabolism by saying this exercise will boost your metabolism. Muscle burns more energy than fat, and all these sort of metabolic platitudes in the fitness industry that really confuse people. And a big one of it is as long as you burn it off, you're good to go. Earn it and burn it. So I have people coming to me who I see myself in, who are just overdoing it in the gym because they think they have to, because they think that's how this works. And when you're overdoing it in the gym, your body is very confused about how to use fuel. It's very confusing input for your body. It's what is this person doing? If you're crushing a spin class every day, you're running away from that metaphorical bear we talked about earlier for an hour every day. Your body's what is up with this bear? Holy, like, damn, this bear is persistent, right? So that's a whole metabolic situation. Running away from a bear is a metabolic situation that is not, first of all, going to enable you to lose any body fat if that's your goal. Your body doesn't give a damn if you want to lose body fat when you're busy running away from a bear every single day in the gym or whatever. But also, it puts so many different demands on our fuel needs when we're overdoing it with exercise that I try to get people to focus on food and lifestyle in the absence of exercise, because exercise muddies the waters. If you're going to go and do all these kinds of hard, crazy workouts because you think you have to, it's going to really negatively impact what we're trying to do here with food. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, what my favorite thing is when somebody comes to me and they're like, they want to work with me and they say, I don't really do much exercising though. Is that okay? And I'm like, that's perfect. That's actually perfect. Don't exercise yet. Maybe later when you start to feel more energetic, we'll talk about it. But I really do double down on food and lifestyle because I feel like they're the biggest dial movers for metabolic health. Again, I'm grumpy about the conventional wisdom about fitness and nutrition. Like, I'm really grumpy. It didn't work. And it's also dumb. Like, you know, have you ever heard that one, the 80% diet, 20% fitness? Like, that's this pie chart. And this is the pie chart of health. It's 80% diet and 20% fitness. I'm like, no, it isn't. Those are two separate pies. Those are different pies. There's a nutrition pie. There's a fitness pie. There's a lifestyle pie. There's a sleep pie. You know, there's a sun exposure pie. There's all these different pies. Talking about pie now, it's probably talking about pie, but they're different pies. I don't like them being lumped together. So that's where I kind of led with fitness.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great point of the 80-20 rule and fitness in general, is that there's a lot of math in fitness. A lot of math, a lot of numbers, a lot of calculations, and a lot of, well, this is the formula. This is how you do it. And the thing is, that's in a perfect world with the one example of the perfect person in the perfect time with the perfect, once again, going back to these other factors that play the role. It might be 80-20. It might be 95-5. It might be 99-1.
Right, yeah. And the other thing, I think you were touching on this, is that stuff, that math, only works if you're working it. Like, that equation works out if you are going to commit to that equation forever. And that's a fussy relationship with food and with your body. And I'm not here for that, because I did that. I fussed over my body to the detriment of every other part of my life. I have incredible regret for the decades I lost in the gym. I know people love the gym, but I have incredible regret for the decades I lost because I was in the gym all the time. I didn't have any fun. I wouldn't go out with my friends. Are you kidding me? Drinking? There's calories in that. Oh my God, I factored in the calories in my toothpaste. When I was young and I was dating, I would go out for a date with a boy and I would order dry toast and a bowl of soup. Like, this low-fat paradigm. So the point is, all of this math, all of these formulas, they only work when you're working them. And people, for the most part, won't do that for their whole lives. Some people will. Some outliers will. Some outliers are very, very dedicated to their very strict diets and their once a week cheat day or whatever it is, and they can do that for their whole lives. But that's an outlier situation. Most of us, we fatigue out of that. It's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to count calories anymore. I don't want to track macros anymore. I don't want to meal prep on Sundays anymore. I couldn't eat another chicken breast if you paid me. So then what? Then what? Right? So I'm here to catch the and then what's. Like, people who are like, I want to feel good in my body. I want to feel energetic and vibrant. And I also don't want to fuss about it. Like, great, let's go. That's really my space. The effortless relationship with food is what I call it.
Gotcha. So this is the good choice experiment, right? So we usually like to wrap up with a couple of things that you have on your mind as far as some good choices you have ahead of you that you want to experiment with for yourself. And perhaps if you can leave us a little nugget of wisdom for some good choices that other people may be able to experiment with as well.
Okay, so a good choice that I'm hoping to enact for myself, not hoping, going to. I don't like using that vague language, and I always catch my clients using vague language. Like, I just need to. No, let's just take the bull by the horns. So I have a really, really strong desire to stop looking at screens. Like, a lot of this is I'm really reaching my breaking point. And I think, going back to my origin story, my very first job was, office stuff, right? I've been working in an office since I was 20. I've been doing computer stuff since I was 20. I've been staring at these things for 25 years every day. And I don't think I can take it much longer, which is, maybe sounds like a kooky good choice. especially given that we are so digital. But one of my good choices is to become more analog. I'm looking at ways to become more analog. So, for example, I moved out of the city. I live on an acreage in a forest. So I have this opportunity to extract myself from screens and go out into actual, like literal nature. I get to sort of have that sort of yin yang, because I can't stop looking at screens right now. It's not feasible now, but in like the medium term, I think it's feasible. And the other thing I've done is I've taken on a little side gig. I'm the queen of side gigs. I have so many, but it's a hands-on pursuit. It's an artistic, creative pursuit, and it's hands-on, and it's decidedly not screen-based. It's a manual. I'm being very vague because I don't really want to like
put it out there.
Talk about it, but
yeah.
But when I took it on, I got a lot of pushback from people like, what are you taking another job? Like, wow. And it's like, no, I need something that is offline. I need something that is a hands-on pursuit, not a knowledge pursuit. My brain is tired. My eyes are tired. My hands want to get it. My hands want to get dirty. Like my hands want to get into it. My body wants to get into it. So one of my good choices is to try to become more analog, and I think, if I take this one and kind of how to apply to other people, this goes back to the circadian biology stuff I was touching on before. I'm doubling down lately on my clients actually connecting with the sun. Okay, not only from a circadian rhythm, because if you connect with the sun at certain times of the day, it tells your body where you're at in the day. Like, oh, it's solar noon. Okay, we have half a day left or whatever it might be. But there's something very analog about connecting to your clock via the sun. Like it's like there's nothing more analog than a sundial. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't get more analog than that. So just getting into connection with certain positions of the sun at certain times of the day is something I'm really pushing on my clients, because it's like it takes you right back to brass tacks of like the nature that you're part of.
Yeah, and then it's like this is a perfect time. We're in that little transition between winter and spring coming, and so we've had a long time, at least here in Nashville, we've had a long time with just like cloudy days, no sun, a lot of rain. So when the sun is out there, it feels great. You can feel what it's doing to you as you walk out there, how it balancing out everything for you.
Do you know what I'll share on that topic? So I'm in Canada, so we have very long, dark winters, really dark. We're just way north, right? So crazy if you're ever to come up here in the winter to see how shallow the sun is. Even at solar noon, the sun is like 3 inches off the horizon. It's not even in the sky. It's like on the ground. I swear to God, it's crazy. But like we get occasional nice days here, and some of my friends will say, oh, let's go outside and get that vitamin D. And it's like, sorry, you're not getting any vitamin D from that sun. Like we don't get any vitamin D for 6 or 7 months of the year at least. But it's still critical to connect with the sun. Your eyes need to connect with that ball of fire in the sky, because your whole biology is tied to it. So forget about vitamin D, which is very crucial. Don't get me wrong. But there's another reason to connect to the sun, and that's because our body needs to know where it is. Our body is attuned to that star, and we have to look at it. We have to be with it. And it sounds so kooky to say that out loud, but I think connecting with the sun is this like secret health elixir, because our bodies are actually a perfect design. Our bodies are a freaking miracle of technology. And this whole technology is attuned to the sun. So we got to connect to it. I don't know.
And just to add to that,
choice.
I just had a newborn in January. And so what's common with a lot of newborns is for them to have jaundice. And so one of the things they told us to help her get rid of it was to put her out in the sun, because the sun would help her process it out. So touching on the fact that you said, the sun is healing, those properties are from the moment we're born, it's affecting us and helping us. Even when we start her sleep training, part of the things we have to do is very much like what we learned within the health coaching world, is to set the scene, work with her circadian rhythm. And those things, just because we get older and we get jobs and we start, having life and we're going out, we're partying, all those things are still important to our health and to us operating at a fully functional level. I agree with you. The sun's great.
It is great. There's this soundbite that I really like, which I think I nabbed from a book. I think I nabbed it from the Sacred Cow book, which is a great book to read. But the soundbite is, we are a part of nature, not apart from it. And I can see people in my own life who are so apart from nature. And I don't know, it's not right. Like we can't, I don't know. What do you think's going to happen? Like we're animals. We're meant to be in nature. We're meant to connect with the sun. And I just think it's such an easy thing to do. I feel like it's really easy. Like, hey, go. I just had a call with a client of mine who's an 11-year-old boy, and he's so stressed out. And I was like, my friend, can you go for a walk today? Like, let's 15-minute walk today at lunchtime. After you eat lunch, can you go for a walk? He's like, I don't think I have time. Like this little kid. And I kind of shared this stuff with him, like, do you believe that you're meant to be inside all the time? Like, does it feel right to you that you're this stressed out about school and stuff? And he said, no, it doesn't feel right. I don't like the way it feels. I said, maybe it'll feel nice if you go out in the sun. Do you think it would feel nice? And he said, I think it would feel nice. I like being outside. Like right there, it's like, I think that being outside would help me actually. And yes, it will. It just will every time. It's a good choice to try to get outside. And by the way, even though I live out in nature and it's easy for me to go out in nature, I think if you live in a big built up urban area and there's like a tiny little city park nearby, that counts. You don't have to like go out of your way to make a fussy trek into nature. Anything counts.
Yeah, or if it is a wintry day, look out the window. Like just to be by a window versus being in somewhere where you're shuttered, that does so much for your mentality as well, depression, like there's numerous things, right? We could sit here and write a whole book about it, and people have.
Yes.
I love your good choices you have ahead of you, right? And I think they go hand in hand. The gig economy, I know that very much, right? I do the same thing. So stand up, health coach, videographer. Like I think nowadays we have, going back to perceptions of things, we think you have to be one thing and you're one thing for the rest of your life, right? One diet for the rest of your life, one job for the rest of your life. This is who you are and that is it. We like to label things. But in the reality, and another thing that's good for us to move forward and be productive humans is to explore and continuously find things that keep ourselves busy. Right. And if you're continuously busy with these new gigs and these new hobbies, there's less screen time for you. On your free time, there's less time you're going to be watching TV, and there's a balance to both. Though.
There is. I also think that like we're all multifaceted. I could have stayed in marketing for my whole life. That would have been fine. I would have made a nice paycheck and, probably gotten a little, I don't know, retirement thing going. I don't know, but I could have done it. But that was only one aspect of my personality. So mercifully, marketing enabled me to use my sort of the conceptual part of my brain. I'm not really creative. I'm creative adjacent. Like I'm a good writer in the sense that I can conceptualize how a message should get across for a target audience. And that's marketing. That's a marketing skill. And I could keep flexing that muscle for a 30, 40 year marketing career, but I have other muscles to flex. Like I do have a little creative muscle. I have a visual arts muscle. I have a project management muscle. Right. And then there's other things that I don't like. I don't really like managing people. Never mind about your job, but just everything that you do in your life. I think the gig economy is cool because you can, to your point, like you can zero in on the different elements of your personality and actually earn a living doing things that you are cut out for and that you're programmed for. And nothing wrong with sticking it out in a job for a while, but I do think that parts of yourself get neglected a little bit.
Yeah.
And sort of like knowing thyself, like what do you need?
Yeah, and that's, that's a great place to wrap it up. That's a great theme of what we've been talking about this entire time is being flexible, finding out what's right for you, not being dogmatic about things, and searching, having an open mind, and seeking help when you need it. So Erin, please tell everybody where they can find you on social media, your website, all the good stuff.
Okay, so I'm mostly on Instagram, and it's Eat Simple Erin. Eat Simple is my nutrition and health coaching company. It's eat.simple.erin on Instagram, and the website is eatsimple.ca, and that would be the two best places to check me out.
Great, and I'll have all the links to all her information in the bottom, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for coming, Erin. I appreciate you.
You bet.